Okay, hello everyone. I think we are live. If someone can let me know in chat if they can hear everything okay, if they can see everything okay. We should have Angron on the table here. Do we have audio? Do we have visual? Somebody let me know. All good? Fantastic. Okay, so we're gonna probably hang out here for an hour or so. We're gonna do some painting of Furious Ronald, Angron. And yeah, we're gonna be working on mostly skin tone stuff today. So as you can kind of see, I have put down a couple of base layers last night. We were just working up some Word Bearers red mixed in with some browns and kind of things like that. So right now what we've got is like basically a coat of Word Bearers red. And yeah, we're going to start working up some actual skin tone layers on him. So for this, we're going to be mixing Word Bearers red in with good old-fashioned Mephiston red. And we're basically just going to be working up kind of like striations and things like that on the flesh. Working away from the darker parts of the muscle and working kind of towards the high points where the light's going to be impacting him and stuff. It's nothing that we really haven't exactly done before in any other videos. It's not revolutionary stuff, but for anyone who was kind of hanging out on the other live stream, I was kind of talking about how if you want to do a Grimdark Angron, there's an awful lot of like parts of the model that are darker than what you actually think. Like a lot of people are going to use tons and tons of red in areas that aren't necessarily supposed to be that bright red. There should be kind of more of a focus on a lot of browns and blacks, and we're not really going to have that initially. We're going to kind of work away from some of those as we build up these brighter tones, but we're going to get back to those dark colors once we start adding some oil wash and oil blending. So I'm just mixing up some of this mix off camera. We're looking at about a 1-to-1 mix of Word Bearers red and Mephiston red. Sorry, that's a lie. It's probably a bit more Word Bearers red than Mephiston red. So I bought some new brushes just for this. So I guess it's time to crack them open. Who's hanging out in chat? Oh, Studio Guri's there. Anyone who's not in the Discord, go check out Studio Guri on any form of socials, because that man is working on a crazy Angron conversion right now, which I am a big fan of. So yeah, basically we're going to start by basically just putting down these like striations across the skin. I really like this area of muscle here. It's always a good starting point on this model, I found, because it's not going to be necessarily super exposed if we mess things up with a blend and we need to work it back in again. So this is going to be, it's a bit of an experimental one doing streams like this, so let me know how things are going. I'm going to try and keep an eye on the chat as much as possible, but this is very experimental, so if you folks see anything that could do with being improved, do let me know as we're going along. I wanted to have some kind of background music going, but I did not get that set up in time as I was panicking about setting up the stream and getting all this stuff going. So feel free to hobby along. We're going to do a little bit of chatting and stuff like that. I'm not used to painting on stream or doing anything like this, so please keep me entertained and give me some things to talk about. And we'll have fun painting Angry Ron. He's been a fun model so far. I did a little bit of work, as you can see yesterday, kind of putting down my pre-shades and things like that. It's a pretty cool model to paint. I am a fan. And for anyone who's wondering about painting him, if you've painted a Bloodthirster, you've basically already painted Angron, because he's pretty much exactly the same thing. Oh, and by the way, if there's any weird noise in the background or barking or anything like that, that is the dog. He's kind of hanging out with me this evening because everyone else is out. So if he starts to kick up a fuss, don't worry about it. So we're kind of starting to pick out these high points here. Now, we are going to be making Angron look a bit brighter than the actual, like what we want to have as a finish, but that's because we're going to be hitting up with so many different oil blends and stuff later that it's going to kind of come back down in a big way. We're going to lose a lot of those bright parts, so we're kind of excessively brightening them at the minute. I won't be recording like every single thing for Angron on stream just because it's not the easiest thing to paint while recording. And also I have to get this guy done on a deadline. So that is going to be a challenge. But we'll do as much of him as we can. And then at some point in the future, I'm going to do a very detailed hobby video on kind of the masterclass painting of Angron, because this is sort of like my test model for Angron, just kind of getting a feeling for all the different textures and stuff. And then in the future, we're going to do a different Angron, which is going to be kind of all the real good stuff. But so far, he's been pretty fun to paint. I know a lot of people were not lucky and did not get their Angrons yet, which sucks, to be honest. But hopefully this will be some sort of cathartic release. Oh, I'll be right back. Okay, and we should be back. Unfortunately, the dog got a hold of something there and I had to take it out of his mouth. But yeah, okay, so we're just working on Angry Ronald's face here. Now, tonight's going to really just be putting down some of these skin tones. We're going to try and get as much of these reds based out as we can. Okay, so hopefully the dog will now stop eating things while my back is turned. I do like Angron's face. It's actually quite an interesting one. I initially was not a big fan, but have grown to actually quite enjoy it as time has gone on. I think the model is a lot cooler when you actually get a hold of it in person. There's a lot more going on, especially when you get to kind of 360 view it yourself. It's a really cool piece. I'm a big fan. Let me know if the lighting and everything is okay, folks. I'm trying to work out the best angles and stuff. It's a little bit tricky because of where cameras are and everything. Hopefully it's okay. Studio Guri's talking about changing his face. Yeah, when I actually get around to my proper one, I am going to change his face a little bit. I'm going to make his lower jaw a bit more narrow. But for now, we're going to keep this one kind of as he is. A lot of fun texture on Angron's face. So moving over to this side, let's see what we have. I also got my hands on the new Jackal kit, which is really awesome. That's like my favorite one of all the new World Leader releases, amusingly, because it's Mortals in part, but also just because there's a lot of really cool bits and pieces, and it's a very grimdark kit. So looking forward to getting my hands on that one. So to Karen the Betrayer in chat, my plan for this one is he's going to be grimdark, yeah, for sure. We're building up like the kind of acrylic layers at the minute, so he's not going to look particularly grimdark just yet. We're going to have to wait a little bit for that, probably closer towards the end of this week. He's going to start looking really grimdark. Like, we are trying to replicate that early artwork kind of style of Angron. And I think we're going to do a couple of different ideas for his weapons that is going to differ from the box art. I actually think we're going to do the sword metallic, sort of like a dark steel. And that'll allow us to do some interesting OSL coming out from that kind of crack running down the middle with all the skulls. And yeah, so we'll go from there. We're going to mess around. It's kind of a semi-experimental Angron. My plan for this one is just get him up, get him running at some tournaments, and then sell him on, and then actually start working on my proper final form Angron, the boss mode version, I guess. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Who knows, maybe I end up falling in love with this Angron and I don't sell him at all. But I doubt that will be the case. This is one part of the model I wish I had left off in sub-assembly, because getting a paintbrush in around these nails is not easy. And the legs, another real fun part where there's lots of interesting muscle texture going on, so we're going to go for more of those kind of striations down at the bottom. So it's real simple stuff right now. We're just basically focusing on putting down all these base layers. Any other recommendations so far with assembly? Yeah, leave most of his armor off, I think, would be my main recommendation, because there's a lot of it and you can get really excited and start gluing it on. But it is definitely a good idea not to do that, because you're going to find that things are going to get real hard to reach otherwise. As it is, I think what I should have done was also left his legs off, because that is an option. But I got a little bit excited and I kind of wanted to run him in a few practice games as well, so I needed as much of him together as possible. So yeah, as it is, he has got his legs on here, but I would recommend painting him without the legs. I think would be the best play. So yeah, we're kind of at that therapeutic step right now where we're just adding layer and layer of red, which is nice and fun. We don't really have to think about it too much. Normally I'm pretty switched off and listening to an audiobook at this point, so hopefully this isn't completely useless and boring to watch. I know it's not necessarily as interesting as myself, Jack, and Jamie sitting down talking tactics, but people wanted painting streams, so this is gonna kind of be what they're like. Especially when we're working on such a big model, like single layer is gonna take quite a while, as we've got a lot of surface area to work over. Oh, thank you, Studio Guri, for the €5 donation. Much love from France. I can't wait to see what you do when you start painting them, because yeah, I know I said it before, but the work that Studio Guri is doing on his Angron is making me incredibly jealous of his talents, especially his ability to sculpt. To the point that we've added a new emoji in our Discord dedicated to my favorite piece of green stuff work that I've seen from the last couple of years, which was Angron's ass resculpted by Studio Guri in all its finest glory, which was real nice. I think it's important though to spend a lot of time actually working on the red skin, because it is like the focal point of this miniature, right? It's the first thing that everyone looks at is the red skin. It does dominate the space, so kind of got to make sure that it's looking cool. So that's why we're going to spend a little bit of time on it, going back and forth with different sort of tones, making it brighter, making it darker until we're happy, because yeah, we don't want him looking like he's just been dunked in a big can of red sauce at the end of it. That is not the vibe that we're going for here. So it's real gradual work. And anyone who's kind of watched my stuff before knows I like to work in lots of small gradual layers, which tends to take a lot of time, and I'm sure there's easier ways of doing it, like if you airbrushed or anything like that, but I do not airbrush, so we got to do this the painful way. I'm glad someone likes the painting streams anyway. Yeah, we're not necessarily trying to force conversation here. We're just vibing, having a good time painting Angron. Y'all can see a little bit of what my process is, although probably less swearing than normal, because we're live on camera. And normally, if I'm getting things wrong, I tend to get a bit colorful with my language. This leg in particular is a leg that I should not have glued on. This was a big mistake. Also, painting tails is like my least favorite thing. They're so annoying to paint. And this little nubbin by his hoof as well. I don't know what it is. This like toe sort of vibe. So weird. Dog is having a fit in the background. Okay, let's put the main body down for a moment, because we're not going to do the tail just yet. We're going to move on and work that layer up on his arms, the guns. I'm not really sure yet what I'm actually going to end up doing with the wings, because I kind of want to do them really dark, but right now I'm still painting them with the normal reds and stuff, but I can see myself changing up how we do that as we go through the process, because right now I'm not entirely happy of the kind of black wing membrane and stuff and the red pinions. It's just a little bit boring, so I think we might try and change that up a little bit, but I haven't quite thought of how yet, which is not amazing, but we'll get there. Sorry, what is being said in the chat? Wrote down all the paints I mentioned in the stream yesterday. The paints I'm using for the skin in this video, yeah, sure thing. So what we did first was, like, off stream, I put down a bunch of base tones because it's super boring to watch that. I mean, it's not particularly interesting to watch this either, but for the base tones, I started off with a really dark mix of a little bit of Wordbearer's Red and some Rhinox Hide and some Abaddon Black. And from there, we basically worked up more and more Wordbearer's Red with each layer until we got to kind of pure Wordbearer's Red, and that was like our foundation, our starting layer basically. From there, we've been working in a little bit of Mephiston red into Wordbearer's red. And now we are kind of working on those layers. So basically, we'll be gradually blending in more and more Mephiston red until we kind of get to a stage that we're happy with. So that is pretty much it. But yeah, to answer your question, I will be listing all the paints as I go through them. And this isn't really supposed to be a comprehensive guide on painting Angron either. This is kind of just like my process for painting this first Angron, and giving you folks a little bit of a taster of a hobby stream, because maybe they're going to work or maybe not. I'm not sure. Okay, what else is going on in chat? Whose Primarch gets nipple horns? That can only be Magnus, right? Am I going to go with red skin on the one you're painting for yourself later? Yes, I am. I'm going to... The one I'm doing later is basically to try and pay tribute to the fantastic artist John Blanche, who did that incredible original piece of Angron. So I'm going to try and basically replicate that artwork. So yeah, I will be doing the red skin for that. Oh, that is way too bright. Whoops. This sword arm is so strange as well. It's such a big arm. Trying to get the camera to focus on this seems to be quite problematic. I think the piece is just too big. Where's Angron's friend? Depends on which friend. If it's Stinky Mortarion, I'm going to banish him back to the Shadow Realm. I feel like Angron and Mortarion would get on better than Angron and Magnus. Kind of two grumpy old men sort of vibe sitting on the porch. Can't really see Angron getting on that well with Fulgrim either. It's really important to spend a lot of time making these guns look as bright and potent as possible, because Angron's gun show is pretty incredible. One thing I'm really interested in is how many people paint Angron in alternative color schemes as well, because I know that obviously the vast majority of people are going to paint him red. Um, so yeah, I really wonder how many people are going to kind of go with something alternative. I know Jack from the channel is going with an alternative kind of purpley color scheme, which is pretty interesting, I think. But yeah, I'll be curious to see how many kind of different skin tones and things like that we get out of all the other painters. I'm gonna try and keep the fists somewhat dark as well, just because you know, when you're kind of gripping a weapon like this, it's gonna be a little bit of a darker skin coloration everywhere because of all the blood flowing through it. But I think that's Sam. Oh, thank you so much, War Boss of Khorne, for Dara. Yes, for me. For me, as I go crazy trying to paint Angron in less than 2 weeks. I don't know, what do I have? Like 12 days left, I think, but before he needs to be done. Sidoriguri, you're going red. I was interested to see what way you would be going. One guy was going to paint his armor black and yellow. That's pretty funny. I like that idea. Let me just mess around with this lighting here a little bit. See when I have spine grinder up, see if we can get some better lighting while we paint this one. Maybe if I bring this over here and dish down here. Is that better? Potentially better? I'm not sure. We'll work it out as we go, I guess. Okay, let's get to work on spine grinder arm. White and blue armor, whatever, Jack. You know I hate that. Hate that vibe. I'm also, I don't know why I'm painting these muscles up here, like the shoulder muscles, whatever those are called, because like I've got the shoulder pads to put on them. So that's kind of an exercise in pointlessness and futility, but here we are. Really wish the camera would just focus on these arms. I think they're just too small. You know what? Maybe it's not able to focus because of the cutting mat. If I get rid of this, we might have a better time focusing. It's a little bit better. God, this arm is so funny. It looks like a ketchup arm right now. Let me see if I can just tilt this camera so we've got less shadow going on as well. Oops. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, I think half an hour in and we've finally gotten a relatively decent camera setup going. This is why it was an experimental stream, folks. Because I'm now learning that painting a model, trying to work out if the camera is screwing me over, and also keeping an eye on chat are things that my brain can't do all at the same time. So thank you, Jack and Jamie, if you are there, for monitoring the stream. What's going on? 40k guys in Mephiston and Retributor? Yeah, that's a classic. It's a classic. And yeah, Jack's Angron does look pretty Slaneshi. I'm only saying it's good because I'm scared of what will happen if I say it's not. I'm joking, Jack. Please don't take that seriously. Get some more light on this guy. It's really annoying that the lighting that I normally use when I'm painting is not the lighting that I normally use, or that normally works for streaming and recording, which is a little bit confusing. In the future, when I got real technical, I'd love to have a little stream cam that looks at the palette as well, because a lot of people are like, how do you mix those paints and blah blah blah, because a lot of people don't mix paints, they kind of go straight from the pot, which is like fine, but you kind of lose out on a lot of interesting tones and variation that you can get by mixing paints. And if wet blending isn't something that you can do, then mixing paints is like a good kind of alternative for that. Wow, I think the stream quality is actually relatively stable now. I'm so sorry that it wasn't this from the start, guys. I'm still trying to work all this out. But hopefully it's better now and more watchable. Hopefully. You know what, Flight of Icarus? That's such a good point about Magnus. Like, he's a really cool model, but he doesn't really have anything that, like, says, like, I am 1,000 Sun. You know, he's just like this big demon dude. Like, if you look at Angron and Mortarion, they're covered in iconography from the Legion. Like, Angron's got loads of World Eater shoulder pads. I think one of his knee pads is. Actually, you know what? Angron is, like, covered in the World Eater symbols, even though apparently he didn't like the Legion that much, but his model would say otherwise. But yeah, Magnus just has nothing. He's just got the nipple horns, you know? Which is just fucked up. Who wants to see those? Anyway, I'm going to have to mix up a fresh batch of Mephiston Red and Wordbearers Red because we've run a little bit dry here. And we're going to need those for the wings and the tail. God, I hate painting tails. It took me like such a long time to paint Bellacor's tail because I was trying to work so many different blends into it. After a while, I just started wondering, like, why the hell am I wasting all this time on a freaking tail? Which, who's looking at that, you know? And you've got the Blade of Shadows. But yeah, tails are tails, I guess. Angron's tail is a bit more prominent than Bellacor's. It's kind of right there in front of you. Oh, and for all my mixes as well, for people trying to follow the paint stuff at home, I watered them down like a lot because we're doing so much different red layers. Like, I want to kind of make sure that we don't lose any detail or anything by building up too much layers of paint. So it's like lots and lots of water gets added. It's not quite a wash to any of my layers or anything like that. It's just like super thin layers, basically. Yeah, not going for a wash because otherwise we can't do striations or anything cool like that. Let's go back to Big Ronald's. And let's work on this freaking tail. Right. So for the tail, I've been doing this thing where it's like basically like kind of real quick slashes going across like this. And working my way down, basically, which is like super boring to do. But it'll look nice at the end. And the reason I know it'll look nice is because I did it for Bellicor and it looked really nice on him. It'll kind of like help make it that it's not just this giant like red sausage coming out of his bum. Will actually be a little bit textured, which is kind of cool. It just takes a while, which is slightly annoying. I hope the audio is okay as well. I've got my new mic set up. I'm not sure if it's like close enough or far away. Hello, Rin's Gravity. Welcome to the chat. We're all hanging out. Some of us are painting Angron. Some of us are just watching me paint Angron. Like, that must be so boring for you folks. But I appreciate you spending your time here anyway. We're all hanging out. It's kind of a collective hobby hangout in the end. That's the way I see it. Even Jamie's here doing some hobby, apparently. Apparently. I don't know if that's true or not. Came to the sad conclusion today as well that I won't be able to run Invocatus in the tournament I'm attending at the end of the month. Because I simply do not have enough time to paint Angron, Invocatus, and 20 Jackals. And my priorities are the Jackals and Angron. So, oh, thank you, Rinse Gravity. Came here to watch me paint before I clock in. That is very kind of you. Getting the 8-pound off the sprue, Jamie? Hell yeah. You gonna make them naked or are you gonna make them with armor on? So this is like my favorite thing about the World Leaders. Well, okay, it's probably not my favorite thing, but it's up there as like one of my favorite parts, right? You can like effectively, if you run Disciples of the Red Angel, you can make this like Muscle Beach kind of vibe, right? Because like you can build Angron without his armor, and you can build an 8-pound without their armor. So like I really like the idea of just having this like Baywatch list of basically like Angron and the 8-pound all just like, you know, shirtless, like running around the place. I think that would be so funny to do. If I had infinite money and time, I might do it just to see. I feel like it's the kind of thing that Ron would do, you know, to go with his like glitter berserkers and all that kind of stuff. I just think that would be the funniest thing ever. Demon Beach vibe, yeah. That would be such a good display board, actually. Now that I think of it, maybe I should do that. That should be a really funny armies on parade. Just have like the most like twisted demonic version of Baywatch, except it's like Angron without armor and all the 8-pound without armor. I think that would be a hella good vibe. I feel like some people would really not enjoy that. Your old band covered the Baywatch theme, Jamie. Yeah, you can get the Jackals as the cheerleaders or something because they're all pretty much not got that much clothes on. It's really only the Berserkers that are the boring ones, you know. They decided it would be cool to wear armor, which is real boring. I also like coming from a competitive point of view. The 8-pound are like considerably smaller if you model them without the armor as well. So, you know, if you really want to model for advantage but not in an illegal way, you could do that. Not that we would condone such things on the Red Path, of course. We're all about not cheating, and running pure world eaters all the time. Definitely not Black Legion, which is definitely not what Jamie ran at the LVO. Oh yeah, I love the armor bits too, DJ. Like, there's no way I'm making my 8 band without armor. I think it looks hilarious, and not good. It does not fit the aesthetic, I don't think. So all my 8 band will have their clothes on. Can you folks see why I hate the tail now so much? Like, it has taken me so long to paint this tail. And we haven't even done the underside of the tail yet, which admittedly is faster, but like, I think it was Darren Latham who sculpted Angron, which is like, it's a really, really good sculpt, and I really like it, but I hate him for putting all these spines on the tail. It just makes it absolute agony because you can't just like really quickly like striate over them. You gotta like focus around them, which is super annoying. They got combat slippers. Yeah, they got the freaking sliders, bro. It's like some whack stuff. It's like the weirdest kit. It's wild to me that someone at GW was like, you know what this kit needs? This kit needs topless possessed. And like, I'm here for it. I'm here for that energy. It's really funny. But interesting decision tree that they were like, we need to focus more on making sure the 8 band are topless instead of giving us like actual juggernauts or terminators and stuff. They're like, no, 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 no. We need to dial it in on these 8 band. I do think it's like the least impressive kit of all the new ones. Thought the 8 band kit was a little bit, not that it's a bad kit, it's just boring in comparison to the amount of options in the Jackal kit or the Berserker kit. Nothing in it like sparked a crazy amount of interest for me. I'm probably going to kit bash a bunch of stuff in that kit, and I think it is a great kit for spare bits for the Berserkers. Like, there's some really cool eviscerators, or well, things that I will end up using as eviscerators from in there. But yeah, like overall, I was like a little bit disappointed with the 8 band kit, because it was the last one I opened, so I was expecting like the same amount of options that was in the Berserker kit or the Jackal kit, and it was not that vibe. I think there was like 10 heads. And like there's some weapon options, of course, but like that's kind of it. Which is fine, but I wanted more. Right, so for the underside of the tail, we're just gonna go like really, really fast. Basically do this. You can kind of see where I've done it. Maybe you can see? You can sort of see where I've done it before, but we're gonna work closer and closer to the tailbone each time. Just like work our way down basically. Yeah, I also think that the Possessed kit is better than the 8 band kit. Like, I'm running my Possessed as 8 band. I think they're really cool. And like, I feel like it's not a bad idea to run either 8 band or Exalted 8 band as Possessed if you have both in your army, because it's like visually distinct. Because otherwise, like, I still don't really know the difference between them visually. I think one of them has like combat slippers and the other one has like demon slippers, right? And then like some weapons or something. But like, if you were to put them in front of me right now, I don't know if I would know the difference between them. So for that reason, I'm going to use my Possessed. And also because I really like my Possessed and I don't want to retire them after like 6 months of use. You're gonna run Galvorbacks? Yeah, those guys are freaking sweet. I have a kit of them that I just haven't gotten around to touching yet, but I will at some point. I have like lore in my head for what the Galvorback are in my Legion, or not my Legion, my Warband or whatever. It's like basically like these like bodyguard for my Dark Apostle. So I really want to do them. Kind of like how the Blade Slaves are. Like, I'm probably going to redo my Dark Apostle at some point and use Zardu Leak, because he's just such a great model. I feel like you can probably kit bash the new possessed kit and the 8 band and get some really interesting kind of builds going on there. Because I feel like one of the things that kind of holds the 8 band kit back is that they're not mutated enough. So I feel like you can get some of that. I think there's some spare bits in the possessed kit, so I might take a look at doing that if I want to make some exalted 8 band. It might be an option, is all I'm saying. God, I spend a lot of time on Angron's underside. Which is fun because no one ever picks up a model to look at what's underneath it. Unless they are painting judges at the LVO because one of them picked up my Rhino and saw that it was completely black on the underside, which was quite embarrassing for me. So I'm one of those people who does not care that the Rogaldorn doesn't have a bottom. Okay, I think that's like that layer of Angron's whatever body. I don't know. Main torso. We are gonna have to do the wings now. So like, I hope you folks can see that it's not, you know, necessarily the most fascinating thing to watch right now because we're just taking a lot of time working these layers up and things like that. Like we're gonna have a lot more red layers. This is kind of to give you an idea of the process. But like I'm gonna keep working on them off camera after all this, and you know, get some of those red layers in. So we're looking at doing something a bit more interesting tomorrow. I'd like to be onto the brass armor. But we're gonna do a little bit of work on the wings now, just to show you guys kind of what we're doing there. Like this is what we have for the wings at the minute, which is like fine, you know. But what I really want to do is like have it quite dark around these areas here and coming up here as well, because like anyone who's seen any of the artwork of Angron, his wings are actually really dark. So I want to try and kind of emulate that as well. What's going on in chat? It's very strange that we don't have access to the slaughter brute. Yeah, yep. I almost bought that thing on an impulse because I just assumed we were going to. And boy, am I glad that we didn't, because that would have been embarrassing for me. Such a cool model too. I really wish we had it. And the mutilated vortex piece for the Thousand Suns is like such a good meme. It would have been great if we had that in our army as well. The Khorne Lord of Skulls doesn't have a bottom? I did not know that. That's pretty funny. Hello, Rory. I miss you too, bro. So yeah, for the wings, it's kind of the same vibe right now, just because I don't actually know what I'm doing. The wings are like an awkward thing, because I feel like it's like wasted energy, because I feel like I'm going to end up overriding at least some of what I'm doing here and blacking it out with oil paints. But just in case I don't, I'm going to kind of work that red up on these as well, because you never know. Yeah, I agree. Sudiyoguri, the codex really doesn't feel that finished. It's really funny to me that there's like artwork of Juggernaut Berserkers in the codex, but then there's no actual Juggernaut Berserker unit. I just find that really funny. It's like all the articles that mention the Butcher Surgeon. It's just like, alright guys, like be more tongue-in-cheek about it, I guess. But hey, I've got plenty of models to keep me going for now, so it's not too bad. And after playing some games, I actually think that the new book is tons of fun to run. I do think some of the secondaries need a bit of a nerf, but the book itself plays really fun. So I'm enjoying that for now. And if new stuff comes in the future, I will enjoy that then. But right now I'm just focusing on having a good time with the stuff that we have. And we can worry about the rest of it another time, you know? The Admech hover tanks, yes, I actually did know that they didn't have a bottom. I think what we should all be doing is turning over every model in our collection to find out what does and doesn't have a bottom. I think that would be a lot of fun. Butcher Surgeon heavily mentioned in the lore of the codex. Yeah, he seems to be coming up everywhere. It's kind of like, oh, hype a model up more and then like don't actually release him. It's like the weirdest thing. But I think he will be a really cool unit when he does come out. And I'm definitely going to be kit bashing up a few of them. Like, I don't even care how cool the model is. I just know I'm going to kit bash a load of those guys because I just think it's a cool idea. The question is, though, will the Berserker Surgeon, is he going to have a bottom? What if he's hollow all the way through? Yeah, I think it's fair to say he is coming. Like, we don't have to will that one into existence. I think it's more or less a given that we are getting a whatever Butcher Surgeon, Berserker Surgeon, whatever his name is. Like, he's coming at some point. You heard it here first. Angron has a bottom? He does. He does. If you see the work that Studio Guri's done, though, boy, does he have a bottom on that model. So yeah, we're still kind of working on these striations. The one thing I would say, if you're trying to emulate this technique as well, you're probably going to need a brand new brush just for Angron because this technique really beats the crap out of a brush. Like, I'm probably going to have to replace my brush halfway through this week. That's why I like to use really cheap brushes. I would not use any of your nice Artist Opus or Artificer brushes for this. You guys so thirsty talking about everyone's bums. Calm down. This is Saint Emperor's Children's stream, you know. The real question is when Fulgrim comes out, is he going to have a bottom? Or is he going to have more than one? Maybe he's going to have the collective missing bottoms of the entire model range. Who knows? One of the things that we're doing with these pinions is like we're working a blend up. You can kind of see it here. It's quite dark towards the root and then getting lighter. So we are going to kind of try and emulate that here again. And we're just feathering it, basically getting closer and closer to the midpoints of each. I'm not sure what these bones are called or if they are actually bones. There's a name for what these things are, but we're getting closer to the middle point of it each time. Sigval, does anything go by? That guy is assless chaps. That guy has the ultimate bottom of Warhammer. That new Sigval model is like something that I have on my want to paint list for a long time. I always thought Sigvald was really cool. You can see we're kind of feathering out around here as well, picking our spots to highlight, but we're really working on minimal stuff again because I have this feeling I'm going to work back in on this and kind of delete a lot of the work I've done here. But sometimes that just happens, but you always have to kind of keep working anyway because you can never really be sure that you're actually going to get rid of it or not. And I am so unsure about what I'm doing with these wings. Wings are always like a big problem for me because it's like you want to make them interesting, but you don't want to make them so interesting that they detract from the entire model. Like my Be'lakor project, which is kind of eternally ongoing, like my Mortals army. I kind of made his wings a bit too interesting, I think. I did a lot of freehand on them, and I think it kind of started to take away from the actual model, which is a bit of a problem. So I may have to go back in and delete some of that detail at some point, but Be'lakor is a problem from a different time. Right now we're working on Angron. And I try to think about Be'lakor as little as possible because he just hangs out on the left-hand side of my shelf, eternally staring at me, asking when he's going to be done, and I just don't have a good answer. One thing that we are going to do is kind of work on these little ridges here as well. I am probably going to keep these because they kind of frame the wings quite nicely. So we're just working away from the kind of shadow parts where the lobster kind of effect is. Like here, we're going to leave that dark and work our way down. Real simple stuff. But you know, it's these little touches, these small details that you put in on a large model like this that kind of helps draw the eye. It's just important not to get caught up on too many of the small details because they're not going to matter as much on such a large model. They're just there to kind of pull the eye, so don't spend too much time on them. But stuff like this is really fast to do. Bellicor demands answers. Yeah, he does. Like the Bellicor that I'm painting, he's gonna look so cool when he's done. It's just like he's taking me so long. I kind of like I'll work on him maybe like a couple of hours a month, and it's just like it's so draining to work on him because I have so many things that I want to try with that model. Like it's not even like one or two things that I'm not certain about. It's like a whole range of things, and I'm just so nervous every time I go near him. And it's gotten to the point now that when I started painting him, I've like leveled up a bunch and I've like learned a bunch of new techniques. So like some of the stuff I've done is like dated and doesn't look as good now, and I'm just like, oh man, I just don't know what I'm doing with this anymore. It is a big nightmare. Berserker's getting rules for kill team. I can only assume they're going to because like if they're their own army now, like Death Guard have rules in kill team, right? They've got like rules for Plague Marines, so Berserkers have to get rules. I think that'll be really cool. Like War Leaders and boarding actions just seems like so much fun. Um, Ron's eyes should be white. Oh, maybe not white for you, Jack. I don't know if that's gonna work. I think maybe a really kind of yellowish, sort of like an ochre almost, but like quite a bright ochre. I would say if you mix yellow, some sort of bright yellow, and you want to mix in a little bit of XV88 as your base layer and then work in some white, I think that's probably what you want to do for that. Because I think white might get a bit lost in the purple skin tone that you've got going on. I think, but maybe it will work. My Ron's eyes are going to be white anyway. I hate the like pupil dyes that GW gave him. It's like it's so weird. Yeah, I know my camera is refocusing a lot, Freydis. Sorry, I can't help that. Unfortunately, it's like has like this stupid autofocus feature that I can't really seem to disable. Again, I'm still trying to work it all out. I gonna mess around with a bunch of software as well during the week and try and get better camera stuff going. But if anyone has any suggestions, that would be great because it is the biggest pain in the butt trying to get it all sorted. And there is no good tutorials out there either for this kind of stuff because I guess it's a little bit niche. World leaders are crazy good in boarding actions. Yeah, I can see that. Like I don't know a crazy amount about boarding actions. I've watched a couple of battle reports and it seems like crazy fun. But I can see how world leaders would be really strong in that kind of a game mode. I don't know if you can bring 8-bound, but if you can, they would be hella good. I just really like it because they have those like blown up walls and doors and stuff in boarding actions now, right? I just think having a topless 8-bound just like Kool-Aiding his way through the wall, that is like that's the stuff of real 40k dreams. Yeah, with all the cover you can get in boarding actions, I can just see world leaders being really strong. And like part of me almost wishes there was like a tournament circuit or like a competitive circuit for boarding actions just because it seems like a really tight rule system that like rewards interesting decision making. Like I would really love to play that game at like not maybe not necessarily a competitive level, but like you know, a kind of a cerebral level, I guess, where you're like sort of planning out, because like it feels like your assets are like way more important, right? Because like you have so few that like you have to be really really careful with what you do. Is just kind of how it feels. So like I think it would be really interesting to see how some people would take that in a competitive sense, just because it's a really cool game system. And it's just stripped back enough that it doesn't have all the complexity that 40k does as well. And your units just mean a lot more, which means like you gotta value like your decisions a lot more. You can't just like throw things away, which I think is just a really good way of playing the game. I say as I load 40 jackals into my list and just call them throwaway units for the whole game. But yeah, it's a cool little game system. I'd really like to try it out. Have some fun ideas of implementing boarding actions in some games I'm going to be playing later on this year. But right now, I'm focusing a lot on competitive play just because world leaders are a little bit busted right now, and I want to kind of make the most of it before we get nerfed a whole bunch and have to work out a whole new way of playing, which is entirely fine, because it's kind of what we're used to. And I don't think our nerfs are going to be that bad, but I think there are some nerfs that need to happen. For sure, for sure. The lack of stratagems being really fun. Yeah, I really like that aspect of boarding actions, Freitas. That's like one of my favorite parts. That it's not just like every unit can be powered up by like so many different things. It's like, no, the abilities you have in your data sheet are the abilities you have. Like, that's kind of how it should be. I would really like if an edition in the future just stripped out stratagems, and like it was stuff like, you know, blood or whatever it's called for the berserker surge, the one where they get shot and they move, that being on their data sheet rather than a stratagem is really really good, and I would like more things like that in the future. Like the 8-bound being able to just hop in reserve, and you know, things like that. It's quite a good mechanic, I think, because it makes it a lot easier to balance the game as well. You don't have to balance around stratagems, you can balance around data sheets, which I think just makes it easier to keep things streamlined anyway. We should lose a bunch of worldwide tournaments. Yeah, we should definitely do that. I'm going to do my part at the major I'm attending at the end of the month. I'm going to go 0-5. And then people will be like, well, obviously Angron's bad. We need to reduce his points. So then Angron's going to drop down to 300 points. And then I'm going to turn the heat on and still go 0-5 in events. So when our army keeps getting buffed, even though we're really good, it's going to be thanks to me, guys. Okay, just remember that. So for the back of the wings, we're kind of doing the same vibe here. Just going to focus in on those. I'm going to call them pinions. I know they're not pinions, but I'm just going to call them that until someone tells me what the actual name is. But yeah, we're just going to work towards that reddish blend. We are starting to get a bit of life in this guy now. Like I say, we're not going to record everything, but following this, we're going to work up to a pure Mephiston red layer, and then we're going to maybe touch in a little bit of wild red or red, but it's going to be real little. It's just going to be highlights and stuff at that point, because we don't want it to get like oversaturated or anything like that. We want to keep it kind of muted, but also still, like I said, brighter than what we want the final product to be, because the oil wash and the oil blending later on is going to dull that down. So the way I would say it is like, think about what you want your final kind of saturation level to be, your final brightness level, and then tone that up by about 20% when you're putting in base layers like this, because it's going to be devalued by about 20% after we add our oil washes and things like that. Obviously, depending on how heavy you wash those, but generally for my experience, that's kind of what I end up doing. So if you're kind of following my tutorials and stuff, a similar sort of thing would probably be applicable, I think. So that's this wing pretty much. Got that layer down for now. Which means it's time to move on to the second wing. It's so much fun painting wings because you have to do the same thing 4 times in a row, basically. Oh god, I hate wings. I actually can't tell if I hate wings more than I hate tail. It's a pretty close run of things. How is everyone else's hobby going as well before we we move on. Everyone else working on some interesting things. Right. I'm going to be pretty much doing the same process on this guy. So let us begin. So one of the important things as well is like when you're working on these muscle striations and stuff to work out from the shadow, like pick the point that you're running away from and start there because the paint will be lightest towards that part then. Drilling barrels for this, nice. That's always a ton of fun. What are you drilling barrels in? We're playing World Eaters, bro. Rin, you still waiting for your parcel? That's so lame. I feel so bad for everyone who didn't get Angron straight away. It is not cool at all. Hopefully it sends out a signal to GW that our faction is more popular than they thought we were going to be, though, and they actually make us some new models. That would be nice. Building 8 bounds, gluing the armor. Ooh, very exciting. I'm going to be looking forward to your updates after this stream. I cannot wait to see what you do with that armor. This like nubbin here, I don't know what that is. It's such a weird part of his like body. I don't know if that's muscle or bone or what it's supposed to be. I need to like look up some reference pictures of that actually, because it's such a weird thing. Not quite sure if it's natural or not. That ain't natural. Oh, your jackals? They all have pistols? Oh, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. I respect that. Pistols that they cannot use, however. I mean, fair play for drilling pistols into cultist types because they don't get that sort of treatment from me. Oh, are they parts of the fingers from the wing? Okay, that kind of makes a bit more sense, actually. That might be it. I feel like they are organic. It'd be kind of weird if he had a bit of metal sticking out of him there, but he actually does have bits of metal sticking out there, like this cabling, which is also weird. I don't know if that makes sense because, like, should there be metal there? Like, where's that metal going? Maybe it's part of his backpack or something. I don't know. It's kind of a weird. There are some parts of this model that are like, that is aesthetically pleasing, but I'm not really sure why it's there. Yeah, I am kind of liking these wing fingers, as we're gonna call them. I'm liking the blend that's coming out on them, so I actually don't think I'm going to potentially delete this part after all. Who knows? We may end up keeping it. Right, so that is that wing pretty much done. I think, folks, what we're gonna do is probably leave the stream here for now because I'm basically just going to start another layer of red and do everything I just did all over again, which isn't, you know, amazingly interesting to watch. But it's been a ton of fun hanging out, and thanks everyone who was vibing in the chat and everything like that. I really appreciate you all coming out here to support the stream. And just hang out and keep me talking, keep me interested. I hope it was fun, at least for some of you. If it's something that you want me to keep doing, I don't mind continuing to stream Angron, you know, as we go on. I can do the whole process, you know, over the next week or so, if that's an interesting thing. But yeah, let me know. Let me know if it was good. You can obviously tag me in Discord after this or whatever in any of the hobby channels. If you're not already in our Discord, there should be a link in either the video description here or in the main channel page or something like that. But yeah, hop in there, you know, get the chat going. Let me know if you like the stream, all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to keep working on Angron for today. I'll probably tune back in tomorrow anyway. And yeah, we'll go from there. We'll see how it goes. But thanks everyone for hanging out, and we'll talk again soon. So until the next time, folks, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.